All right, get ready because today we're going deep into Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Ooh, a classic.
We've got excerpts from the book itself, some background on Hill, and stories about the people he studied.
Yeah.
You know, what we really want to get at is like the heart of his success philosophy,
Right.
and then see how that plays out in real life,
Yeah.
for like the big achievers, but also everyday folks who just like did something amazing.
Well, and that's what's so interesting about Hill's approach,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He wasn't like, some academic just theorizing.
Right.
He spent over 20 years interviewing like hundreds of successful people,
Oh, wow.
analyzing them, trying to find what they had in common, that thread.
Yeah.
It wasn't about luck. It was a pattern he was after.
So it all kind of starts with Andrew Carnegie, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
the steel magnate.
Yeah.
He's the one who kind of gave Hill the blueprint for this whole thing.
Yeah, Carnegie believed he had discovered this formula for success. And he wanted Hill to turn it into something anyone could use,
Right.
Like, he was convinced that if this formula was taught,
Yeah.
it could revolutionize education, like change the way we learn. Can you imagine, like, graduating in half the time because you've mastered the principles of success?
Oh, man, that would shake things up.
Totally.
But let's talk about Charles M. Schwab.
Oh, yeah, great example.
Hill calls his story the $600 million idea.
Right.
And it really makes you think about, like, the impact a single idea can have.
It's huge, yeah.
It's huge.
And Schwab, he was a young associate of Carnegie's.
Okay.
And he's a perfect example of someone putting these principles into action.
Yeah.
Back then, the idea of a massive steel corporation like U.S. Steel, it seemed impossible.
Yeah, I bet.
Like a fantasy, right?
Right.
But Schwab had this vision, this incredibly clear vision, and this unwavering faith that it could be done.
Wow.
And he managed to convince J.P. Morgan, like one of the most powerful financiers at the time,
Oh, wow.
to back the whole project.
It makes you wonder, was it more than just the idea itself?
Oh, I think so.
Like, did Schwab's conviction play a role in persuading Morgan?
Absolutely. And that's what Hill calls burning desire.
Right.
That unshakable belief that your goal is achievable no matter what. Like obstacles be damned, it's that inner fire
Yeah.
that fuels you, that helps you push through.
We see a similar thing in the story of Marshall Field, the department store guy, right?
Oh, yeah. What a comeback story.
Talk about a comeback.
I mean, his store was totally destroyed in the Great Chicago Fire.
Oh, wow.
But instead of giving up, he stood there in front of the ashes and declared he'd build an even grander store right on that spot.
Wow.
And he did it, turned a devastating loss into like a symbol of ambition.
Huh. Hill also goes into this whole thing about faith and autosuggestion.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like modern day self-help, doesn't it?
He was ahead of his time, for sure.
Yeah.
But Hill didn't believe faith was like mystical,
Right.
He thought it was a state of mind that you could cultivate. He encouraged people to use affirmations, visualize their goals.
Right.
Like he was a pioneer in understanding the subconscious, really.
So Hill wasn't advocating for like just wishful thinking.
Right.
But
No.
he thought you had to combine faith with knowledge to make things happen.
Exactly. He argued that knowledge is useless unless you, like, have a plan.
Yeah.
He tells this story about a grocery store salesman who lost his job in the Depression.
Okay.
This guy used his bookkeeping skills to start a whole new business.
Interesting.
See, Hill's point is you got to find your strengths.
Right.
And then be creative, apply them in new ways.
So you've got this burning desire, faith in yourself, the knowledge to back it up. But is there like a missing piece?
There's one crucial element that ties it all together: imagination.
Yeah.
Hill believed imagination is what transforms ideas into results. And he uses this great story about Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, and an old kettle
An old kettle?
to make this point.
What's the connection there?
So the story goes that the secret formula for Coca-Cola
Right.
was bought for practically nothing from this struggling inventor. The new owner, Asa Candler, he had something the original guy lacked: imagination.
Ah.
He saw a global empire in this simple drink.
Wow.
And, the rest is history.
So imagination is what takes you from a good idea to like building an empire.
Yeah, that's it.
What about working with others?
Oh, Hill was huge on that.
Yeah.
He called it the mastermind principle.
Okay.
The idea that when people work together, they create something much bigger than they could alone. He pointed to people like Henry Ford, Mahatma Gandhi.
Right.
They all surrounded themselves with brilliant minds.
That leads us to one of the most fascinating and maybe confusing parts of Hill's philosophy, the sixth sense.
This is where things get a little metaphysical.
Right.
He believed in this sixth sense that connects us to something bigger, which he called infinite intelligence. And he even said we could tap into it through our subconscious minds.
Hold on. Are we talking about, like, ESP here?
Not exactly. No,
Okay.
Hill saw the sixth sense as intuition, like a gut feeling that guides you.
Right.
He said, learn to listen to those whispers. Trust your instincts.
Interesting. He also spends a lot of time on the idea of conquering fear.
Yeah.
He lists out these 6 basic fears he thinks hold people back.
Right.
Why were these fears so important to him?
He believed fear was the biggest obstacle to success, period.
Yeah.
It paralyzes you, stops you from going after your dreams. He even called them ghosts.
Ghosts?
Yeah, because he saw them as based on illusions, false beliefs.
Oh, I see. So how did he say we should overcome these fears?
Well, it wasn't just about positive thinking.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of strategies, things like affirmations, surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Right.
But the most important thing, taking action.
Taking action, yeah.
Fear thrives on inaction.
Right.
Even small steps towards your goal help. They build momentum, and your fear starts to fade.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit.
Sure.
Hill was big on making clear, decisive decisions.
Oh, yeah. Huge on that.
Why was that so crucial to his whole philosophy?
He saw indecision as, like, paralysis. He uses the example of John Hancock and Samuel Adams.
Okay.
Their unwavering decisions, they sparked the American Revolution.
Wow.
He believed you got to commit to your goals,
Right.
No doubt, no second guessing.
He also kept saying persistence.
Oh, yeah, persistence is key.
Calling it the sustained effort necessary to induce faith.
Exactly.
So, like, faith without action is meaningless.
That's a great way to put it.
He uses the example of Fannie Hurst, the author.
Right. She submitted her manuscripts hundreds of times
Wow.
before she got published.
That's persistence.
That's it. Refusing to give up.
Yeah.
Having that grit to keep going till you reach your goal.
Finally, Hill talks about self-mastery, like controlling your thoughts.
Right. Focusing them on your objectives.
This seems very, like, modern personal development.
Totally.
He uses Henry Ford as an example,
Yeah.
contrasting his focus with, like, his employees.
Ford was relentless. He had this vision and that self-discipline. That's what made him successful.
So much to think about. It's amazing how relevant Hill's ideas still are after all these years.
I know, right?
What are some of your main takeaways from what we've covered so far?
Well, what strikes me is how connected all these principles are.
Yeah.
They work together.
Yeah.
They build on each other to create this powerful framework for achieving anything. And they remind us that success isn't about luck. It's about mindset and action.
This has been really thought-provoking stuff.
I agree.
We've covered so much: burning desire, faith, specialized knowledge, imagination, the mastermind principle.
That's a lot.
In part 2, we'll take a closer look at those 6 ghosts of fear that Hill says we all need to overcome.
Yeah, those are important.
Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Last time, we kind of set the stage for Napoleon Hill's principles of success.
Yeah.
And now we're going to tackle those 6 ghosts of fear
Oh, right, the ghost.
that he thinks can sabotage our efforts. It's like a guide to facing those inner demons.
Yeah, those inner demons that
Yes.
hold us back.
Exactly. So let's shine a light on these fears. Like, what are they all about?
Right.
What's the first one Hill wants us to be aware of?
Well, the first one, and probably the most common, is the fear of poverty.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Hill argued that it's not just about a lack of money,
Right.
but a mindset, a belief that there's just not enough to go around.
Like a scarcity mindset.
Exactly, a scarcity mindset.
Hill knew about this fear firsthand, right?
He did.
He wasn't always the successful author we know.
Right, he had his own financial struggles early on. So he understood how crippling that could be.
Yeah.
But he also saw how that fear could become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, interesting.
Like what we believe about money actually shapes our reality.
So how do we break free from this fear of poverty?
Good question.
Is it just about, like, thinking positive thoughts about money?
It's more than that. Hill called it cultivating a money consciousness.
Money consciousness.
A deep belief that wealth is possible, that you're worthy of it.
It's like shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
That's it, yeah.
He also listed like symptoms of a poverty mindset.
Yeah.
Things like procrastination, negativity, lack of confidence. It seems like that could hold anyone back, not just people who are struggling financially.
Oh, absolutely, these negative thought patterns.
Yeah.
They can trap us in a cycle of scarcity no matter what our bank account says.
Right, so it's about breaking free from those limiting beliefs.
Exactly.
And embracing a mindset of possibility.
Yeah, abundance.
All right, so we tackled the first ghost.
Right.
What's next on Hill's list?
The second fear is one that I think we can all relate to.
Yeah.
The fear of criticism.
Yeah. Who hasn't felt that?
Right. Hill said this fear can paralyze you, keeps you from taking risks, from being yourself.
He even suggested that something as common as baldness.
Baldness.
Yeah, could be linked to this fear. That's a pretty bold claim.
It is, he said. Many men wore hats, not for practicality,
Right.
but to hide their baldness, you know? Like, they conformed to avoid criticism.
Even if it meant, like, being uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
So he connected this fear to everything.
Everything, from what you wear to what you say.
Wow. So how do we overcome this fear of criticism?
Well, Hill emphasized self-reliance,
Oh.
trusting your own judgment, not letting the opinions of others control you.
So it's about having the courage to be yourself, even if people don't like it.
That's it. Hill believed that real success required the freedom to express yourself, your talents, your ideas.
Without worrying about what others think.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to the third ghost. Fear of ill health.
Oh, that's a big one these days.
Yeah, especially with all the health anxieties around.
It's everywhere.
Hill understood the mind-body connection.
He did way before it was popular.
He did, yeah.
He believed that fear of illness could actually make you sick.
Ah.
And he was pretty critical of, like, the patent medicine industry back then.
Oh, yeah. What did she say?
He thought they exploited people's fears to sell them useless cures. Hill believed true health came from a positive mental attitude.
Okay.
And focusing on prevention, not dwelling on what might go wrong.
So it's not about ignoring health concerns?
No, not at all.
But approaching them from a place of empowerment, not fear.
That's right. Taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
But not letting fear control you.
Okay, on to the fourth ghost. Fear of loss of love.
That one's a heartbreaker.
This one seems to get at, like, our need for connection.
It does. Hill thought this fear often came from insecurity. Like a fear of being alone, unworthy of love.
He even linked this fear to the dynamics between men and women.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he suggested that the pursuit of love often becomes this, like, power struggle.
Interesting. So what was his take on that?
He observed how societal norms create this, like, environment of competition and insecurity in relationships. So how do we overcome this fear of losing love?
Another good question.
Is it just about finding the right partner?
Hill said it was about cultivating self-love, a sense of inner security.
So, like, when we value ourselves,
Yes.
we become less dependent on others for validation.
Exactly, and less afraid of rejection.
Okay, we're getting close to the end of this list. What about fear of old age?
Yeah, aging.
This one seems to reflect, like, societal anxieties about getting older decline.
Yeah, definitely. Hill recognized that this fear was often about money.
Right, financial security.
Yeah, and declining health.
Uh-huh.
But he also saw how, like, the stories we tell about aging, they contribute to this fear, you know, portraying it as all downhill from there.
Right, like you're just fading away.
Exactly.
How do we challenge this fear of growing older?
Hill was all about lifelong learning, personal growth. He believed aging could be a time of vitality.
Really?
Yeah, if we see it as a chance for new experiences, for continuing to contribute.
Interesting. And finally, the sixth ghost, the most daunting one. Fear of death.
The big one.
Hill acknowledged that everyone feels this fear.
Of course.
But he argued that it was made worse by, like, religious dogma and cultural narratives that make death seem terrifying.
Like something to be avoided at all costs.
Exactly.
He even suggested that people who haven't been exposed to those beliefs are often less afraid of dying.
That's interesting.
Hill thought our fear of death often comes from not understanding what happens after.
I see, the unknown.
Yeah, he didn't have any definitive answers.
Right.
But he encouraged people to develop their own philosophy about death, something that brought them peace.
So he's saying, in a way, that fear of death is fear of the unknown. And we can lessen that fear by exploring our belief.
By finding meaning in life.
Right. So much to unpack here. Hill gave us a lot to think about in terms of like identifying and dealing with these inner obstacles.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It is. Where do we even begin?
Well, Hill actually offers some practical advice.
Oh, good.
He emphasizes self-awareness, recognizing our own fears,
Right.
and then consciously building habits that counteract them.
Okay, so like what kind of habits?
Things like surrounding yourself with positive people.
Yeah, good people.
People who lift you up.
Right. Right.
He also said, don't dwell on negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses.
Makes sense. Anything else?
The most important thing, take action.
Take action. There it is again.
He believed that fear feeds on inaction.
Yeah.
So even small steps towards your goals help. They break that cycle.
This is all really good advice.
It is.
But Hill also introduces these kind of unique concepts like the mastermind principle.
Right.
And the idea of the sixth sense. How do those fit into his whole philosophy of success?
Well, Hill was convinced that to achieve big things, we often need to tap into resources beyond ourselves. He saw the mastermind as a way to leverage a group's wisdom.
Right, like a team effort.
Exactly. Surround yourself with people who share your vision.
Right.
Amplify your strengths.
Right.
Overcome your weaknesses.
Okay, and the sixth sense, was he talking about like psychic powers?
That's not really, no.
Okay.
He described it as intuition, a gut feeling that guides you. He even thought we could access this through the subconscious.
Wow.
Like a deeper wisdom beyond our everyday thinking.
This is all pretty mind-blowing, but I gotta ask.
Sure.
Are these things, the mastermind, the sixth sense, are they really necessary for success?
It's a good question.
Like, can we achieve our goals without getting into all that?
I think they can definitely help, but they might not be essential for everyone.
Okay.
The core principles, things like desire, faith, knowledge,
Right.
imagination, persistence, the power of decision,
Yeah.
those provide a strong foundation for achievement.
So we have a choice.
We do.
We can embrace everything Hill talks about.
Yeah.
Or we can focus on the core principles that resonate with us.
Either way.
Either way.
Think and Grow Rich offers a lot of insights
Yeah.
that can help us live more fulfilling and successful lives.
I totally agree. This has been an incredible exploration of fear.
It has.
The power of the mind.
Yeah.
In part 3, we'll see how Hill's philosophy has played out
I'll let it be interesting.
in the lives of both famous people and everyday people.
Can't wait.
Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Think and Grow Rich. We've explored all the principles, faced the fears,
Right.
and now it's time to see how these ideas actually work in real life.
Yeah, the rubber meets the road.
I'm curious, like, how do these principles translate into results for, people who achieved huge success, but also for everyday folks like us?
That's a great point. Seeing these principles in action makes them real,
Yeah, totally.
And Hill studied so many successful people.
Yeah, he did. We've got tons of examples.
Where should we start?
Good question.
Well, we talked about Charles M. Schwab, right?
Oh, yeah, Schwab.
And his big role in starting U.S. Steel.
Right, what a story.
It's a classic example of how burning desire, faith, and knowledge all come together to create something amazing.
It's a perfect illustration of what Hill called definiteness of purpose.
Definiteness of purpose.
Schwab didn't just, want success. He had a vision.
Right.
He knew exactly what he wanted to achieve. And that clarity, it was contagious,
Yeah.
It convinced J.P. Morgan to get on board.
Makes you wonder, what did Schwab actually do?
Yeah.
Like, how did he get Morgan to believe in his vision so strongly?
That's a great question.
Are there, lessons there for us?
I think so. Hill really emphasized clarity,
Okay.
passion, and understanding your audience. Schwab knew his audience, and he tailored his message to them.
Right. He knew what Morgan wanted.
Exactly. He didn't just present facts and figures. He painted a picture of the future.
A future that Morgan wanted to be a part of.
Exactly.
So it's not enough to just have a good idea.
No.
You have to sell it.
You have to make people believe in it.
Right. Make them see your vision.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about, everyday people?
Yeah.
Do we have examples of, regular folks using these principles and achieving something big?
Oh, absolutely.
Go, tell me about one.
Well, Hill tells this story about a young man named Edwin Barnes.
Edwin Barnes.
And he was determined to work with Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison. Wow.
The inventor, right?
Yeah, I remember reading about Barnes.
But Barnes didn't just want a job. He wanted to be Edison's partner.
Wow, ambitious.
He was. And he was just a clerk, no connections, no money.
It seemed like a long shot.
It did. But Barnes was so committed.
Mm.
He hopped a freight train to New Jersey.
No way.
Showed up at Edison's lab, unannounced.
Wow, that's bold.
Walked right into Edison's office and said, I want to be your partner.
I mean, he had no skills, no experience.
Nope, but he had that burning desire.
What did Edison say?
Well, you might think he brushed him off.
Yeah, I would think so.
But he didn't. He was impressed by Barnes's determination.
Really?
Yeah, he saw something in him. So he gave him a job, a menial job.
So it wasn't just about showing up and making a statement. Barnes was willing to work his way up.
Exactly. He didn't see that job as a setback. He saw it as an opportunity. He worked hard, always looking for ways to contribute.
And eventually, his chance came.
It did. Edison was working on this new invention.
Okay.
The dictating machine, like an early voice recorder.
So what happened?
He gave Barnes the task of selling it.
Okay, but how did he go from selling machines to being Edison's partner?
Well, Barnes saw the potential of the dictating machine. He believed in it.
Okay.
So he convinced Edison to give him exclusive selling rights.
Wow.
He put everything he had into it.
Yeah.
Promoting it, distributing it.
Huh?
It was a huge success.
So Barnes created his own luck in a way.
That's a great way to put it. Hill said luck is often opportunity in disguise. But you have to be ready to grab it.
Barnes was ready. He had the skills, the commitment.
Yeah, and he understood the product.
These stories are so inspiring.
They are.
They show that Hill's principles really work.
That's the best part.
They're not just theories. They're tools anyone can use.
Exactly. They're not just for a special few.
Right. Anyone can use them.
As long as they're willing to put in the effort.
Okay, before we wrap up.
Sure.
Let's talk about the sixth sense again.
Okay.
Hill described it as a connection to infinite intelligence.
Right. A deeper wisdom.
Yeah, something beyond our rational minds.
I think Hill's own life is a good example of this.
Oh, how so?
Well, he talked about a time when he was struggling to finish his book.
Writer's block.
Yeah, he felt stuck, full of doubts.
So what did he do?
He decided to tap into what he called his invisible counselors.
Invisible counselors?
Yeah, these were historical figures he admired.
Okay, like who?
People like Abraham Lincoln, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and of course, Thomas Edison.
Wait, was he, like, talking to them?
Not literally, no.
Okay.
He would sit in his study
Yeah.
and have these mental conversations with them.
Interesting.
You would ask for their wisdom, their guidance.
I gotta admit, that sounds a little out there.
I know, it's unconventional.
It is, but I'm curious.
Hill believed this helped him access a deeper level of creativity. He even said Lincoln gave him a message.
Really? What did Lincoln say?
He encouraged Hill to keep going, to finish the book.
So he was tapping into something beyond himself.
Yeah, a source of inspiration.
Connected to infinite intelligence.
That's how he thought.
Whether it's divine inspiration or just the subconscious mind.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Hill believed in a wisdom beyond our everyday thinking.
This has been an incredible journey.
It has.
Exploring success, facing fears,
Follow.
even the possibility of higher intelligence. It's given me a lot to think about.
And Hill reminds us that knowledge is only potential power.
Right.
You have to use it.
Take action.
Exactly.
So think about these principles.
Yeah.
Find the ones that resonate with you.
And use them.
Start incorporating them into your life.
That's the key.
We've covered so much. Burning desire, faith, specialized knowledge, imagination, persistence, the mastermind.
It's a lot.
It's like Hill gave us a blueprint for achieving our dream.
He did. But the most important ingredient is belief in yourself. That unshakable conviction that you can do it.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Think and Grow Rich, I want to leave you with a question. If our minds are really connected to this infinite potential, what's possible?
What can we achieve?
What kind of life can we create?
It's an exciting thought.
It is. Think about it. Embrace these principles and unlock your potential.
You got this.
Thanks for joining us.